Welcome, everyone, to the third annual Omer Aliyah, a 7-week spiritual boot camp of personal elevation, or simply known as TOA. My name is Nuriel Shor. Thank you for tuning into the Yesod seminar of our 7-week empowerment series. TOA, in essence, is a global grassroots movement for every Jew around the world to use the power of Sfirat HaOmer to reveal our individual and collective greatness. Inside each of us is a light waiting to be unleashed, and by systematically rectifying spiritual blockages, with Hashem's help, we will not only transform into the greatest versions of ourselves, but will also generate blessing for the world. Et ruta del tata, et ruta del ela. Our actions below will cause actions on high. By embarking on this journey together, we travel in time from Pesach to Shavuot, forming a global collective consciousness of Ish Echad Belev Echad, one person with one heart, just like our people experienced over 3,300 years ago at the base of Har Sinai. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize our sponsors and community partners who are part of this grand vision. For more information about being a sponsor, a community partner, or about TOA in general, please reach out at omeraliyah@gmail.com. We are currently in the week of Yesod and have the pleasure of learning from Rabbi Dr. Chaim Tureff. Rabbi Tureff is the founder and director of STARS, Spiritual Teachings and Recovery Service, which guides people struggling with addiction. Before we begin, a couple housekeeping remarks. The seminar is being recorded and will be uploaded to the TOA YouTube channel. I will then stop the recording, after which we will have an opportunity for open and confidential conversation with Rabbi Tureff. Please like, share, and subscribe as we help spread the light. May Hashem bless the Omer Aliyah and all who are involved, so that we may experience individual, collective, and global Geula speedily in our days. I now hand it over to you, Rabbi Tureff.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to learning with everybody tonight. So again, thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. And perfect. Good. All right. So as Nuriel mentioned, tonight is we're doing Yesod, and it happens to be in Los Angeles anyway, which many people are not in, so it's already the next day, but it's the double Yesod, right? So I wanted to just start before we get into it, just with a breathing technique. Everybody wants, so we'll take a moment. We're going to do a breathing technique. I will call it out. And only thing you need to do is breathe. That's the only thing. So this breathing, there's tons of breathing techniques that work. You probably can Google a ton of breathing techniques. This one is using just our nostrils. So it'll be breathing in, holding, breathing out, and holding. So it's a 4-1-8-4. And so my formal training in breathing specifically has to do with, as a martial artist and a martial arts instructor for many years. So I use it as a way to kind of center and focus before pretty much I do anything. So I'll call it out, and you can just breathe. And so again, we're going to breathe in, hold, breathe out, and hold. So just breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1 count, and then out, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then hold for a 4 count, 3, 2, and 1, and just breathe out. We'll do it one more time. So breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for a 1 count, and then out, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then hold for a 4 count, 3, 2, and 1. And then just breathe out. So this breathing technique is specifically for calming. And I can just share from experience that it actually works. It's one of those breathing techniques that you can actually, if you live in LA and you ever are in a car, it sometimes can be kind of stressful. And it actually works in the moment. You can actually do it because you can do it with your eyes open as well. And just to kind of like get centered. So just sharing that. All right, so as Nuriel mentioned, so we're going to focus on Yesod. And so I put a visual here just in the background. I'm sure all of you have seen this, or most people have seen this, not necessarily this exact chart, right? But with the sefirot on it, right? And so specifically, I wanted to get a visual representation of where Yesod is located with the other sefirot. And Yesod is known kind of as the bonding sefira, right? Bonding, connecting, attached. If you notice the location of it, right, it is the one that kind of connects, right? It's a connector between all the sefirot, right? It kind of connects to them all, and it has this, it's almost as I put on it, like the bedrock, right? So I wanted to just have that visualization, that thought of, okay, so it's the bedrock. So I was thinking specifically, thinking about different midot just outside of the sefirot that kind of connect, personal midot that connect with this idea of a foundation or bonding or connecting. And so the one that I want to really focus on tonight it's called Hakar Tatov, right? In Hebrew, or in English, it's gratitude, right? This idea of gratitude being a foundation specifically for how we connect with others, how we connect with our higher power, and really how we connect with the world. So I use this specifically in my work in recovery. So I do a lot of work, as Nuriel mentioned, in recovery. I wrote a book that connects with the Torah portions and recovery. And one doesn't need to be addicted to something per se. Alcohol, most people, when they think of addiction, they think of drugs or alcohol or food or gambling or other things, but we all have stuff that we're recovering from. Every single person, probably many things that we're working on. And so when I'm working specifically, I do work with those struggling with addictive qualities, right? Whether it's substance or it's personal behavior. And so one of the foundations that we work with is this idea of gratitude, using gratitude as a way to help in recovery. So I just wanted to share a little bit this idea of gratitude and the science of gratitude, right? So there's lots of scientific studies done specifically about gratitude and how gratitude helps us in our lives in a mentally, physically, besides, of course, spiritually and emotionally as well. And one of the things that the studies show is that gratitude, our brains, I'll go back a drop, our brains are pattern seeking, right? So they do things over and over, and we have almost like these rivets, right? And we're these neurotransmitters. And so kind of like the roads, if you've ever driven on a road that's been newly paved or it's about to be paved, and as you're driving, you're kind of, and you bump, the tire goes into like a certain area and you start to you're imbalanced, right? That's kind of the brain. The brain does that. And so since it's pattern seeking, that can be negative or it can be positive, right? And so when it comes to gratitude, studies have shown that when we actually act out and we do things that emit gratitude within our brains, we have serotonin and dopamines. These are two things. These are kind of, when it comes to those that are struggling with addiction, right? That's what the hits are. So if somebody is doing drugs, specifically like thinking about cocaine or other things, their brain gets this hit, this shot of dopamine, right? Which is exciting, which then means I want to do more. Well, gratitude does the same thing, right? And so a lot of studies have shown that gratitude plays an important role in helping us live a happier life, a more fulfilled life, right? And so fulfillment is very much connected to how we see things, how we interact, and how we live our day-to-day lives. So I brought some ideas of not only looking at it from a scientific point of view, but also from a Torah point of view as well. All right, so this first source, right, which is from Avot de Rabbi Natan, it says, I'll read it in English, right? If you've done your friend just a little bit of harm, think of it as a lot. And if you've done your friend a lot of good, think of it as just a little bit. If your friend has done for you just a little bit of good, think of it as a lot. And if they've done you a lot of harm, think of it as a little. Right? So this idea of how we see things and this idea of gratitude when somebody does something for us, right? Looking at it and seeing it from a positive light and really owning it, right? Really holding on to it. And the same thing when we do things, right? When we're doing kindness, when we're doing acts of kindness, chesed, right? Focus on it, right? But also we can always do more. And looking at how others give for us this idea of gratitude, really expanding that. Because spiritually speaking, right, we have two sides. Speaking of the sefirot, right, we have chesed, gevura, right, and spiritually speaking, it says that the right side is chesed and the left side's gevura, right. So there's a beautiful principle in Chassidus that says that we try to look with the right eye, right, and that means with kindness, and that has to do with when people are doing kindness towards us as well. So I want to take literally 2 to 3 minutes. And if we were all together physically, I would do this a little bit. I would actually do it a lot bit differently. But since we're not, and also people are going to be watching this today, tomorrow, in a week from now, whenever it is that they might be watching it. So we won't do the activity that I would do in person, but I want you to just take 2 to 3 minutes and write down, I'm grateful for these 3 people and why. And if for whatever reason writing is not your thing and you're like, I don't feel like I didn't get on this Zoom to write anything, just think then. In your head, 3 people that you're grateful for and why you're grateful for those people. So we'll take literally about 150 seconds or so. So I'm going to mute myself just so that there'll be no outside noise from here as well. Take about another 30 seconds or so. You're not done. All right. Right. So I brought another source from the Gemara, which talks about this idea of having gratitude. So it's taught in a Braita that Rabbi Meir would say a person is obligated to recite 100 blessings every day, as it is stated in the verse, and now Israel, what does Hashem require of you? Rabbi Meir interprets the verse as though it said 100, mea, rather than ma. Right, so he's taking a little bit of leeway here in the words ma and mea, but this idea of by saying 100 blessings every day, we're continually being rejuvenated, right? And renewing ourselves and thinking about what is it that I'm grateful for? Because the way that we work and the way that our brains sometimes work, especially if we allow it to, we default to negative, right? So whatever it might be, whether it's our partner, right? Whether it's our job, whether it's even with our higher power, whomever or whatever it's with, we can find things that are wrong. We're as humans, we're very good at that. We're very good at being able to look and see the negative, and it takes work. It takes practice to constantly be able to reinvigorate ourselves and to focus right on those positive things. And so this idea, we do have a tradition that we say 100 brachot every day, or we try to, which is one of the reasons you might see people on Yom Kippur, right? Specifically, they'll take bisamim or other things and they'll smell to say a bracha, because on Yom Kippur, when we're not eating, right? There's a lot less, and the Shmona Esrei is a little bit shorter. There's less brachot, right, that are being said. So trying to get to this magical number of 100. So there's a famous Mishnah, and I'm only going to focus on the first part of it, which again has this idea of it's our attitude of gratitude, right? Which you maybe have heard that before, right? So Ben Zoma said, who is rich, right? He who rejoices in their lot, right? So specifically, right? Ezehu Ashir, Hasamech Bechalko, right? Who is happy? Who is really happy? Who is rich, right? When you're happy with what you have, right? And that stems from this idea of gratitude. And again, using gratitude as this foundational point, right, for all the other sfirot, and really using it as a foundational point for how we interact. Because when we have that gratitude, when we are happy with what we have, when we're able to see the things that we have and really bask in that, then we're able to navigate things that are challenging, because every single one of us has many challenges, many every day, every week, every month. There are things that are challenges. And so how do we see those challenges? Do we see them as a blight? Do we see them as punishment? Do we see them as difficulties and as negativity, or do we look at it as a different way? It's that adage of looking at a cup and saying, is it half full or half empty, right? It really is, how do I see it? How do I experience it? And it doesn't mean that when things are challenging that we're not going to get upset or that we're not going to be sad. Those are very much part of our emotions. And there's a time and a place, right? As Shlomo HaMelech said, there's a time and a place for everything, right? There's a time for joy and there's a time for sadness, and that's okay. But really, when we're able to look and see what we have, we're able to really rejoice. There's a story of a famous rabbi where one of his constituents came to him, and he was very upset, and he was complaining about whatever was going on in his life, which was very real. And the rabbi said to him, okay, do me a favor, go. And he sent him to the hospital, and he says, I want you to do, you're going to listen to me, right? And he's like, yeah, you're my rabbi, I'm listening. Okay, good. What do you want me to do? Go to the hospital, and I want you to go to the second, third, and fourth floors of whatever this hospital was that was in there where they lived. And he goes, I want you to take this paper and pen. I gave it to you. Go. Write down every time you see your name. Every time you see your name, whatever his name was. Yankel Goldberg. Okay. So he goes to the hospital, he goes to the second floor, and he goes, make sure you go to every single room, go outside of every single room. And he did. And he goes to the second floor, third floor, fourth floor, all the floors the rabbi said. And he comes back to him a day or two later, and he's like, okay, Rabbi, I'm really perplexed. You had me go to whatever hospital it was, right? Cedar Sinai, say, and you had me look on these floors, and I looked, and my name wasn't there. You told me. And he looked at him and he said, exactly. And he got it. He got what he was trying to, right? What he was trying to tell him. So scientific studies, right, have shown that gratitude is associated with more optimism, positive emotions, better relationships, improved health, more progress towards personal goals, fewer aches and pains, increased generosity and empathy, better sleep, improved self-esteem, and lasting effects on the brain. So if we were to be able to bottle all of these things up into a pill, right, and sell them, and I'm not anti people taking medication, that's not what I'm saying, but if we were able to bottle this up and sell it in a medication, it would go crazy. Everybody would want to buy it, right? And this is from acting, right, an attitude of gratitude, that there's more optimism and positive emotions. Who doesn't want to be more positive and happy, right? Better relationships. Everybody's searching for better relationships, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether it's with your parents or your children or your siblings or coworkers, whomever it is, we always want to improve our relationships. Improved health, right? The amount of money that's spent on health related things in our country and throughout the world it's incredible. And everybody wants improved health, whether it's their back hurts, they have headaches, they have whatever it might be, right? And everybody wants improved health. More progress towards personal goals. Again, fewer aches and pains, which tie into improved health, right? More generosity and empathy towards others, right? It's almost a badge of honor, I can say, sometimes in our culture, in Western culture, certainly, being cynical, snarky, right? But it's actually nice to have increased generosity and empathy towards other people. It's a beautiful thing. Better sleep, right? There's all kinds of sleep aids out there. Improved self-esteem, which is a beautiful concept, and then lasting effects on our brain. And again, who doesn't want all of these things? And all these things, the foundation of this starts with, looking into and becoming more grateful, having that gratitude in our daily lives. So another story from Rabbi Eliyahu Lopian, and I'll just tell the story out. Basically, the story is, once he was talking to a student, and he was folding up his talit, and it was a large talit, and he's folding it. It's taking him some time, and when he was done, he's wiping off the bench because the bench was really dusty, right? He's wiping it off, making sure it's clean. And the student that he was talking to, and again, this was a huge rabbi, right? And like, what are you doing wiping the bench? Why are you doing that? What's going on? So the student asked him, what's he doing? Or let me do it for you, right? Like, you shouldn't be doing this. It's not your job. Let me help you. And the rabbi said, no, I want to do it. And it had to do with it. He wanted to show hakarat hatov. He wanted to show gratitude to the bench where he was folding his talit. Right? And we have lots of stories within the Torah with these, right? When it comes to the first three makot, the first three plagues, right? It was not able to go through Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Specifically has to do with because he was saved by water and saved by the ground in Egypt. So he wasn't allowed to, do the first three plagues. And so we see this a lot, and this is with inanimate objects, right? Kol v'chomer, even more when we're dealing with other people, right? When we're dealing with people that are complex and have a lot of emotion and sensitivity, right? And imagine how much more so we're supposed to show gratitude. And sometimes it's very normal to take things for granted, especially those that are closest to us. It is a normal thing to take for granted. Oh, my husband's going to do this. My wife is going to do this. My parents are going to do this, or my children, or whomever it might, or my siblings, or my friend. Oh, that's just what they do. They do that. And we sometimes take it for granted. So making sure, right, using this example of wiping off a bench, it's important, right? Because I want to show gratitude to this inanimate object, right? This wooden bench, I'm guessing, or metal bench, whatever it was, that has dust on it, right? How much more so are we supposed to show gratitude, right, to those around us? So I'll tell another story, and then I want to get into actually some practical applications. So what are some practical applications to showing gratitude in our lives? So this is a story that I'm going to guess some of you have heard, if not most of you, in one version or another. So the version that I'm going to tell goes like this. And again, probably many of you have heard this story before. So it goes that a gentleman goes to his rabbi. The theme here, do you notice they keep going to their rabbis? So he goes to his rabbi and he's really flustered. He lives in a 1-bedroom apartment, house, dwelling, whatever it is. And he lives there, right? And he's there. He's got 5 children. His mother-in-law lives there and his wife. And he's like, Rabbi, this is just, it's so stressful. There's always a lot of commotion. The kids are arguing and fighting, and my wife and I are bickering, and my mother-in-law, and there's always a mess, and there's always stuff on the floor. And the rabbi goes, okay, so you're a farmer by trade, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, okay, do you have a goat? And he goes, yeah, I have a goat. Okay, so do me a favor, take the goat and bring it into your house. Again, he trusts his rabbi. He went to him. So he takes the goat, brings it into his place of living. And for the next couple days, not only is are there's children and his wife and his mother-in-law, and he's just like, wow, this is, my son is being difficult and they're being loud. And now I've got a goat and it stinks and it's really loud. So he goes back to the rabbi. He goes, Rabbi, I listened to you. It's been 3 days. I brought the goat in. And the rabbi looks at him and he goes, do you have a chicken? He goes, yeah, I have a chicken. Just bring the chicken into your house. Okay, Rabbi. Brings the chicken into his house. The next 3 days, there's clucking, right? There's all kinds of noise, just a lot going on. And it actually was not just a chicken, it was a rooster. So at the crack of dawn, it's, this loud cock-a-doodle-doo and all these noises. And he goes back to the rabbi and he's like, Rabbi, I brought the goat in. I brought the rooster in. I'm still noticing that it's really smelly and loud and noisy. Because, okay, one more thing. On your farm, where you live, you also have a cow, don't you? He's like, yeah. He goes, bring that into your house as well. He's like, I don't know, Rabbi. Okay. Takes the cow into his house. You can imagine the next few days, it's utter chaos. The rooster is, pecking at the cow. The cow is mooing. There's a mess. The goat is shedding. Just all kinds of stuff going on. It's like a mini Noah's Ark. Goes back to the rabbi and he's like, Rabbi, you've done everything you've said. It's been 10 days and it's much worse. Really, I don't know what you were telling me. I can't trust you anymore. And he's like, trust me. Because tonight, what I want you to do, go home, take out the goat, take out the chicken, take out the cow, and then come to me in a couple days. Goes home, takes them all out, comes back to the rabbi. Matter of fact, he doesn't come back in a couple days. He came back a week later. And he goes, Rabbi, it's incredible. My house, it's amazing. The kids are a blessing. My wife and I, we're really getting along well. And my mother-in-law is cooking. It's incredible. I'm so grateful she's with us. She's so helpful. Our house is wonderful. Thank you so much. Whatever you did, our house is just so peaceful now. Right? So it's all perspective. The gratitude of those around us, right? And the idea of what could be. So some steps to becoming more grateful. So these are like practical things that I wanted to put down so that it's not just, oh, I'm hearing about gratitude, but what are ways that I can actually do this? So the first one is keeping a daily journal of things you're grateful for, a list at least 5. I can tell you from experience, as somebody who definitely used to be much more salty and definitely did not always see the positive. It was definitely not in my nature. I started I don't write in a journal for this. Actually, I do it a little bit differently. At night, after I say Kriya Shema, before the rest of my prayers, before I go to bed, I will list out, I do 15 things that I'm grateful for. And I just say it, and I do it every single night. And what I try to focus on, I allow myself to, first of all, I just allow myself to express gratitude, but I try to focus on those that that I take for granted. So whether that's my family, that would be the first thing that I think of, or things, for example, like right now I'm looking at the screen and looking at whoever's on the screen, and I see colors, right? And I know every morning I say the bracha pokeach ivrim, who gives sight to the blind, but I'll say it out also. I'll say it in English. I'm saying it to myself, like I'm grateful for my eyesight, or I'm grateful for being able to hear or to walk, or whatever the weather might be. I really pick things, and I don't judge what I'm picking. Sometimes, to be quite honest with you, it might be something as mundane as my favorite basketball team won a game, or my team that I dislike the most lost a game, which is so not important in life, and yet I'm grateful in that moment. So listing things that you're grateful for and having it become a practice, kind of like exercise. The next one is to make a point to tell people in your life what you appreciate about them daily. Like, just imagine when we're told something that we've done right, it really feels good. It's a beautiful feeling. And those around us also like it. So children always hear what they do wrong, right? Because they're still growing and we're adults and we know better than they do, of course, right? They also want to hear appreciation. Our spouses, our partners, people we work with, right? Make it a point to tell people who are around us that are in our lives, right, that we appreciate them. Positive affirmations. Positive affirmations are incredible. It goes back to the brain science before, right? The neurotransmitters. Saying positive things helps us think positive. It's just a fact. And if we think about it, it's very possible that some of us, many of us in our lives, say things that are negative over and over again, right? We'll focus on a back pain. We'll focus on what's not right, right? Or it might even be personal, like, oh, I'm not very good at whatever it is, fill in the blank, right? Those are just negative things that we reinforce over and over and over. Positive affirmations is just the opposite, right? It's rewiring our brain, right? And so again, the brain is pattern seeking. Once we start with the positive affirmations, your brain starts to believe those things, right? Which is beautiful. It's incredible. So positive affirmations. Prayer, tefillah, also before and after eating. So I specifically put this because, in our tradition, right, there's an idea of saying a bracha before we eat and after. And many people don't know that there's a prayer for after, or why we say a prayer after. And if you think about it, just from being a human, I'm really hungry. I am so hungry, right? And I see that somebody has food, I'm going to say to them, and I want them to share. They have my favorite muffins. And I'm like, do you mind? Could I have them? I'm really appreciative. I'm so hungry. And then I eat the muffin and I'm satiated. I'm good. Peace. I'm out, right? It's harder to say thank you once you are satiated, right? There's a saying in our tradition, right? We're all given tests, right? So there's a test of poverty, and then there's a test of wealth. And according to some in our tradition, the test of wealth is even more difficult than the test of poverty. Because when I'm satiated, I'm good, I don't really need to say thank you because I'm good. Everything's fine, right? And so putting that in our mind to be able to say thank you when I don't need it and I've already got what I need, right? That takes a lot, and it really develops our midot, really develops our character. A gratitude inventory, right? This is just an inventory of things that we have, that we are grateful for. So the inventory is something that we can make and then take a look at, right? So when we are feeling like that gentleman that went to his rabbi who sent him to the hospital, we can look at the gratitude inventory, especially because sometimes we're not in that state of mind, right? Our brain is not in that state. We're negative, we're angry, we're upset, we're hurt, which is all normal human emotion, right? And so it's difficult then to go back and say, like, what am I grateful for? Oh, I'm really good, right? And so to be able to look at the inventory and say, like, oh, I see, this is something I can be grateful for. Next thing is to acknowledge somebody each day you don't know, but is of service to you. So that could be at the grocery store, right? That could be a police officer. That could be really anybody in the world, depending on where you're at. I always think of for me, I grew up in the South. I grew up in Tennessee, and I went to college in New York, and that was a culture shock on many levels. And I remember being there right about when school was starting, and I went to a grocery store called Wallbaum's. And I remember being there, I was doing some shopping to eat, to get some food. And I was next in line, and I went up to the person doing the checkout. And I remember and I said to her, because I was from Tennessee and this is what you do, I looked at her in the eyes and I'm like, hey, how are you doing today? And I smiled. She looked at me and she started to yell at me. She goes, what do you want from me? I'm going as fast as I can, and just laying into me. And me being a naive 17-year-old, I just looked at her and I said, oh, I just said, how are you doing today? And she looked at me and her complete affect on her face changed. And she went from like this anger darts in her eyes to, oh, thank you for asking. She goes, most people here don't ask me how I'm doing. Instead, they're like, move faster, put the groceries in the bag quicker. Why are you taking so long? And so people who we don't know, they want to be appreciated as well. Everybody does. Everybody is a child of God, right? And everybody wants that, to have that sort of recognition. It feels nice. The next one, write about an experience that happened to you each day and why you're grateful for that. So that's more in depth than the very first one. If you're thinking, oh, it seems similar. The first one is just almost as you're making bullet points, right? I'm grateful for my eyesight. I'm grateful for this one is an actual experience, right? So it could be something, again, experience at home, an experience at work, an experience just being out in the world, whatever it might be. Right? Write about an experience. Meditate, mindfulness, prayer, all three things, they're interchangeable. Whatever term you use is what it is. Prayer, mindfulness, meditation, that's all about expressing gratitude. Mindfulness, which seems like it's a new term, which it's not. It's been in Judaism for forever, right? Mindfulness just means I'm present in the moment and I notice what's around me. That's all it means. It's just a kind of a nice word for all of that. So I'm present. I can mindfulness, again, prayer, meditate. I'm aware of my surroundings, right? I recognize that I'm walking on the street and there's beautiful flowers, or I'm recognizing, right, that there's a sun out today, or whatever it might be. Family gratitude box for those of you that live with a family and you don't live by yourself, right? So this idea of being able to put notes in it, and you can put it without your name, with your name, things that you're grateful for. Again, families, there's a lot of hustle and bustle, and it's difficult sometimes to get the chance to say, I appreciate you, right? And so in the moment when things happen, you have a little box, you have the little sticky notes. Oh, I noticed that you did that. You write it down. And then once a week, say on Shabbat, you can open the box and you read, or every other week. If it's difficult as a family, you notice, oh, maybe it's not working for once a week, but every other week, again, you pick a day. Shabbat's a great time where you pull out these notes, and right, it really builds community within your family and really builds warmth and connection, right? It's a foundation for that. Next one is spend a few minutes imagining having absolutely nothing. literally nothing. Then as you feel this, imagine what you have right now, one item at a time. And this was a famous rabbi came up with this specific thing of expressing gratitude. And then the last one is a gratitude walk. And that is going for a walk. And for me, this is easy because I live in Los Angeles. So what I'm about to say might be different for you, depending on where you live. And you're talking while you're walking and expressing those things that you're grateful for. Now, you might be expressing things that you're grateful for in the moment, or as you're walking, looking around and expressing gratitude for the trees, the smell, the honeysuckles, the sun, the wind, the temperature, whatever it might be. Again, in LA, me walking around talking to myself, I fit in perfectly. Living somewhere else, I don't know how that works, so you only know. But really having those walks, that gratitude walk and expressing gratitude, or while you're, visually looking around, taking in the smell, taking in the sounds, and expressing gratitude for all of those things. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Tureff. Wow. I especially, and I'm sure many of us appreciate this final slide of concrete actions we could all take to become more grateful, especially in the context of Yesod, and looking at this as almost like a foundational principle that integrates all these beautiful ideas we've been exploring and interacting with and learning over the past 6 or so weeks now. And you know, we'll have a great conversation after I stop the recording. But before I do stop the recording, I just want to say, for those of you who are, joining us live, and for those of you who are watching the recording, words cannot properly express the power of gratitude in terms of this spiritual kind of rewiring that Rabbi Tureff was referencing before. It's so powerful and literally changes the way that you on a fundamental level relates to the entire world around you, to the people in your life, to the circumstances that shape your everyday life, to your entire environment, to your mission here on these 120 years, God willing, that we're here on earth. Really, gratitude is such a powerful thing that is not just a nice concept, but really is it's everything, the lens in which we relate to reality as we know it. So I'm so happy, Rabbi Tureff, that you chose this particular property of Yesod to emphasize, and we appreciate you. So thank you all again so much for tuning in live, for watching the recording, and we'll see you next week for our final week of Sfirat HaOmer Malchut. Thanks so much.